had people ask me about Minion. They said we'd like to see more videos of how it operates. And while I'm not going to put you through the entire boring situation that it is, I spend time at my computer drawing out things like, for example, this piece of acrylic. And then I tell the machine, please cut out the way I want it to be in whatever thickness of acrylic I use. I tend to use 1/4 inch or 3/8. And so behind me here is an entire sheet that cut out all the pieces I needed for a series of projects. And it does things that I was not able to do by hand. For a very long time, I did all of my work on a table saw. I worked with hand routers, and I made a lot of jigs. And now I'm able to do things with a machine that makes my life a lot easier, lets me be very precise, and I've been able to really put out some nice stuff lately. Some projects require me to draw out the general idea on paper before I spend any time at my computer. Once I've got a plan, then I draw out every piece that needs to be cut from a sheet of acrylic. It can take 20 to 30 minutes to design a project, which includes any holes, radius cuts, or special tweaks, as well as mapping out exactly where the router bit will travel on, in, or outside the line. That includes figuring out the depth that needs to be cut through the material without cutting up the table itself. I'm using a CNC machine these days, and that stands for Computer Numerical Control. Actually, I had to Google that. Once everything has been designed, the software then calculates the X, Y, and Z points. X is left to right, Y is front to back, and Z is up and down. I use specialized tools to make sure the router bit is exactly the distance the computer thinks it is, calibrating measurements for extreme accuracy. I've got about 1.5 years of experience running Minion. I named her Minion because she works for me. For the first few months, every time I clicked the start button, I pretty much held my breath. There are a number of ways to make mistakes, plus the machine itself can occasionally decide to do its own thing like a moody child. Some of this footage is in real time, like right now, and other parts are time-lapsed. This particular project took 57 minutes to complete, and that is merely the cutting everything out portion. After this has been completed, I still need to prep the edges for gluing, and then begin the process of welding all the pieces together into the recognizable products you've seen on my website or via social media. If you're watching closely, you've probably noticed that each piece is cut out 3 times. The first 2 passes cut through the 1/4 inch acrylic, with a final pass that pretty much is even with the paper layer on the underside of the material, if I did everything right. The table itself is a giant vacuum, sucking the acrylic down so nothing moves. Smaller pieces have the tendency to shift, which are either marred, making them useless, or even sucked into the dust collector hose going up and out of the workshop. Minion is a 1,200-pound beast. She's not going anywhere. This machine is built to last and can work hard for 8 to 10 hours a day. 3-inch acrylic could be cut on this without any question. It uses a series of servo motors, rails, and gears that track its exact location during every job. As it moves back and forth, you'll see the gantry traveling constantly, allowing the spindle to carve the exact program path without hesitation. While Minion is running, I'm very careful not to put myself in danger of getting bowled over by that gantry, and I keep my hands away from the cutting bit. This heavy equipment needs to be respected in order to remain safe at all times. And it accepts sheets of acrylic as large as 4 feet by 8 feet. You also may have noticed how the machine works all over the work area, rather than working its way across systematically. When I program all the various cuts required for my projects, they're done in groups or in batches. That's why you're seeing how the machine does one area, then jumps to a different location on the sheet, then returns to carve out additional grooves as it completes the work order. You may be wondering how noisy it is. It's really not that bad, actually. You can hear some of it in this video. I've worked around power tools my entire adult life, and even when Minion is running, I can carry on a conversation with others without too much trouble. That being said, usually when the CNC is running, I'm the only one in the workshop. People that are unfamiliar around power tools are actually a safety hazard, so I prefer to limit that risk as often as I can. As with any tools, I do keep it clean. It's blown off with compressed air after every task, sometimes even during the task, and the gears and tracks are lightly greased from time to time to keep everything running smoothly. Some of you have told me how you're jealous. Well, don't be. Eventually, you too may end up getting one. My business has been growing steadily, and this was the next logical step. It allows me to increase my production, cut out new shapes I couldn't do previously, and provide a more professional, polished product as well. Now that's a mouthful. After getting past that initial learning curve, I'm super happy watching Minion carve out each new job. It's a time saver to be sure. Imagine just drilling out all those holes, which I used to do one at a time on a drill press. So right now I want you to go to melevsreef.com, well, at the end of this video, and I want you to go find something you need and buy it. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I'm always trying to use acrylic to solve things in my life. I mean, I can't help myself. I have it, so I use it for everything. Well, I came across a new little thing that bothered me, and I thought, I'm going to find a solution for this. So behind me is my old stove. This is the stove that came with my house. Do not make fun of it. All right. I learned that from a friend of mine. She always says, don't make fun of it. And then you can't. So this vent right here, heat has been rising up out of it when it's not being run. I mean, it's like the heat from outside is baking in and coming through here. And I didn't like that. And I thought, well, I got to figure out a solution for that. So instead what I did was I cut out a piece of acrylic that covers the hole to stop the air from getting out. Now, obviously, this won't hold up well in the heat. But it definitely is great when the stove's not being in use, which is, what, 23.5 hours a day? So I figured this is a neat little solution. I believe next week's video is going to finally be about calcium reactors.